Good evening, everyone. Microphone out here. Good evening, everyone. Today is April 24th, 2023, 7 p.m. here at the City Council chambers for the study session of the City Council. Call the meeting to order and entertain roll call. Carla?
Beaufore.
Here.
Birgen.
Here I am.
Drenkow.
Here.
Kangas.
Present.
Meyers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Present.
Schneider.
Here.
Thank you. We'll move to item C, Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Move into Section D, approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Schneider, second by Birgen. Council discussion, if any. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. The agenda is approved. Section E, I've got two proclamations. First one is for National Library Week, 2023 proclamation. I'll read aloud here. Whereas libraries provide the opportunity for everyone to pursue their passions and engage in lifelong learning, allowing them to live their best life. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, continually expanding their collections, services, and partnerships. Whereas libraries play a critical role in the economic vitality of communities by providing internet and technology access, literacy skills, and support for job seekers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Adam P. Hoffman, Mayor and the City Council of the City of Waverly, Iowa, do hereby proclaim National Library Week, April 23rd through 29th, 2023. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their library to explore the wealth of resources available. Entertain a motion to approve the proclamation.
Approve the proclamation as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion by Kangas, second by Beaufore. Council discussion, if any. Any comments from our library director who joined us this evening?
Just wanted to make one quick comment about an event that we've got coming up on Saturday. As part of National Library Week, we're having the official public kickoff of the public fundraising. And there's going to be a food truck and mini golf inside and tours of the building so people can kind of get a sense of what's going to change in the building coming up. So that's this Saturday from 11 to 2.
Perfect. Any council comments from anyone?
We love our library.
Yes, we do. Thank you. All in favor of approving the proclamations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Second proclamation of the evening is National Preservation Month. Read this proclamation as well. Whereas every year in May, local preservation groups, state historical societies, businesses, and civic organizations celebrate Preservation Month to promote historic places and heritage tourism. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the relevancy of historic preservation in both urban and rural communities across the nation and by Americans of all ages and all cultural and ethnic backgrounds. And whereas the City of Waverly is a treasure trove of historic resources, including 5 historic districts selected by the National Park Service for listing on the National Register of Historic Places, And now therefore, we, Mayor and City Council of the City of Waverly, Iowa, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Preservation Month in Waverly and call upon its citizens to join the nation in recognizing and participating in this special observance. In witness thereof, I have hereunder subscribed my name, Adam P. Hoffman, Mayor, to be affixed this 24th day of April 2023. Entertain a motion to approve the proclamation.
I'll move approval of the proclamation as read by the mayor.
Second.
Motion by Meyers, second by Birgen. Council discussion or discussion from our leadership with the Historic Preservation Commission.
Good evening, Council. Chris Brunkhorst, Chair of Historic Preservation Commission, and thank you for your partnership and your support in everything that our commission does. And we would like to specifically invite you, and I do believe it's in your council packets, to our special historic preservation dedication event. And Karen was on the subcommittee planning for that, so if you want to say anything particularly.
We're very excited to finally be on the third segment of the three things that we've done. We have signs, we have an public art installation, and now we will have the bronze plaque as requested by the council. And it will be on a piece of bridge salvage, and it will be taller than any of us and very exciting to see. So we look forward to completing this project that has been lengthier than we anticipated. So we're happy to invite you to this event.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any council comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the National Preservation Month proclamation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Brings us to section F, public comments for items not on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual member. Any public comments this evening? See nobody rise, we'll move forward with section G, the study session calendar. Item number 1 is the update from the Municipal Housing Commission. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here to say a few words about the Housing Commission. My name is Doug Bowman, and I serve on the Housing Commission as one of the members, one of the 5 voting members. The Waverly Low Rent Housing Agency exists to serve Waverly residents, mainly the elderly and disabled, in finding housing here locally. Safe, affordable housing. And we have a director. It's run on a very lean kind of organization. There's only 2 full-time and 4 part-time people in the entire organization for the agency. And the Housing Commission then serves its director in that effort. Our chair is Ron Stahlberg. Our secretary is Kathy McClung. And then other members include Peggy Rathe, Seth Engelbrecht, and myself. And then we also have Bill Werger from the city and Rod Drenkow from the council that really invest a lot of time and effort and wisdom into our group with their knowledge. So they help quite a bit. As a facility, our campus includes 101 one-bedroom and 2-bedroom apartments called the Waverly Manor and the Waverly Homes. The Waverly Manor sits just north of the Trinity United Methodist Church, across from the library. And those are both HUD facilities, so they're facilities that are subsidized by the federal government if they meet certain income qualification standards. And that's all run by then the director who oversees that. We also have the Red Cedar Place, which was built in 2022, our newest facility, and is completely full now and fully rented here in 23. So we're excited to have that on board because that would be an offering for anyone that misses the income qualifications from HUD. They might be eligible for that facility, the Red Cedar Place. But our biggest challenge this year came about when we found out that our director, Rebecca Lass, was retiring in December after 20 years of serving the agency. So she has big shoes to fill. And we searched far and wide to try to find her replacement, only to find it right underneath our nose. This evening I brought Deb Frost with me, and I'd like to introduce her to the council. She is a local product, a graduate of Waverly Shell Rock. She graduated from Hawkeye with an applied associate arts degree, and then went on and got her bachelor's degree from Wartburg in social work. So she's a very local product. She had been a manager of units across the entire state, working for Cardinal Capital Development. And she was a regional director with them, but also oversaw housing locally in Cedar Falls and Waterloo and all the way down to Davenport, Iowa, so all across the state. So we're incredibly excited to have her on board, and she just started in late February, so she's kind of new to the position. But if you have questions for her or what we do in addition to that, we'd be glad to take questions. But thank you for your time. And this is Deb, if you want to say a few words.
Hi, I'm Deb Frost. I graduated, I know Ann because we graduated the same year. I'm happy to be working in Waverly again. I do have some experience in HUD housing, over 12 years, so I come with experience that way. And Rebecca being there for 20 years, I have some big shoes to fill, but I'm working diligently to learn my job, and I really enjoy it. Thanks for having us. Do you have any questions for us, or?
I guess I have a question. Congratulations. First
Thank
of all,
you.
it's nice to see you.
Thank you.
What do you see as the biggest challenges, and how long is your waiting list there, if you have one?
I think you have that written down. We have about 14 on one of the waiting lists, 22 on another, and I think 10 on the Red Cedar Place. So I would say having enough units to have for everybody in this area, because they do come from smaller towns as well, not just Waverly. So it's affordable housing for people who can't afford the $1,200 to $1,400 a month rent. That's what's nice about the Red Cedar Place too, is because it fills that gap between having, the low income, the 50% poverty level for the elderly. Anybody between 50 and 80 then can live at Red Cedar Place and pay a flat rate of, let's see, the Red Cedar right now, $630 a month, and that includes all but $10 of their cable. They are responsible for their utilities. But that's still very affordable compared to what you can, Waverly has higher rent, so we can keep people in the community. People can bring their parents back here if they want to, But our biggest challenge, I think, is having enough room to fill or to have for the people on your waiting list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion from council?
I suppose it's nothing we haven't heard before, that there's a need for more housing in Waverly, more affordable housing, so it's not going away.
All right, we'll move into item 2 under the study session calendar, the discussion regarding guest counsel. It was the consensus of the council to have this on this study session, to have an open discussion about the guest counsel program, I guess we could call it. And maybe,
Well, I guess
Matt,
when
Rod?
it comes around, goes around. It was kind of ironic. It was exactly 5 years ago that this was on the agenda at the April study session. So thank you, Councilman Drenkow, for sending me notes on that and guiding me on that. And I did watch that. And, I think a lot's changed in 5 years. Obviously, council's changed and the world's changed. And I always like to eliminate unnecessary things. And, in my view, the elimination of this would be more proper, and it would also make the meetings more efficient And there's other reasons as well, but I'll let everyone else have the floor here, so.
Well, I will just say a couple of words. I did send around a memo. It's the same memo I sent 5 years ago, expressing some of the reservations that I had about the guest council program. And, let me first say, we've had some excellent guest council people. This is absolutely no reflection, this discussion is no reflection on the people who have sat in the guest council chair. And I understand the purpose, or at least I think I understand the purpose for having a guest council program with the goal to engage more people in the civic life of the city, to have more people engaged in what the council is doing. One of those things would be to invite them to sit in actually at the council table. I'm not sure that goal has really been met by the program that we've had. I think that there are some, if the program continues, I would like to see some guidelines set about, what the purpose of the program is, who, and that this is where I kind of get bogged down, because since it's really up to each council person and the mayor to select someone, it's really difficult to have guidelines saying who they can or cannot select. But on the other hand, I think that there has been some problems with some of the appointees as a special counsel person, that it's become more of a soapbox than a opportunity to learn how the council operates. And I guess one other thing, and then I'll leave this for someone else. We have all 8 of us sitting up here at this table have run for election. We put ourselves out there. We've opened ourselves out to discussions with individuals. We've opened ourselves up to criticism from individuals. That's what we have done. That's a price that we have paid to be able to sit at this dais and make our comments known. I guess I'm somewhat jealous of that fact. The fact that we have done the work to sit up here and to be able to do this, whereas a guest council person hasn't. I mean, they've simply just had an invitation to come and be a council person. I think we somewhat diminish the role of the council by having people as council people who have not gone through that process of standing for election and discussing with citizens some of the issues that we're facing. And I understand that the guest council person can't vote, and certainly it would be not appropriate for them to be able to vote. But on the other hand, there's a lot of discussion that happens here at the table that with the council people that has a certain, you have I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use. I don't think a vibe, but a dynamic, there we go, that'll work. The dynamic among the council people. And sometimes adding another person in that is not part of that dynamic, has not been part of the history of some of the resolutions and ordinances that we're looking at, which may have been months in the making, to have them suddenly step in and expect them to be able to make some kind of intelligent comment about things that we've been working on for months is really not fair to them. And it's not fair to them, I don't think it's fair to us.
I have to say, I like having the guest council program. I think it's a good way to get community members involved and as has been mentioned, it's a way to introduce people who may have interest in becoming a civil servant. I think it's a good way to educate the community. And I understand what you're saying, Rod, about the dynamic and that we have, I think maybe what you're saying is we've kind of earned our seat here. But I feel like by inviting guest council people, granted with very limited privileges that they have when they're sitting in that seat, I feel like we're making ourselves more accessible to the community. And I'm a little bit wary of setting ourselves apart and saying, we've earned this and other people haven't, so they shouldn't be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the guest council program. I think it introduces people to exactly what kind of preparation we do before meetings. I think that it gives people an opportunity to see what it means to sit up here and put yourself out there and speak up on issues that are important to you. I can't think of a time where it really made our meetings all that less efficient to have a guest council person. And I don't see it as diminishing our standing. I think it makes us, I mean, we're serving the people of the community, and we've introduced some people to city government. Several of us got involved in government after doing this. Matt and I have been communicating about the next couple of months, and I've got 5 high school students from the Excel Club who want to be guest council people in the next couple of months. So I hope we don't get rid of the program before they have a chance to sit up here. And so, you know, do we need to think about how we fill the seat and what we want to do with it? Perhaps. But I think in this day and age when people are getting ever more cynical and uninvolved and detached, it makes me uncomfortable to think about eliminating any program that allows people to get involved. And to get to meet us and talk to us and see how government is run. I mean, I didn't have any idea. Even though I grew up in a household that was fairly political, I didn't understand in this era what it takes to be prepared and to, get a bird's eye view of what happens with city government. So I think it's a useful program. I don't want to see it eliminated.
Yeah, I would say I'm a big supporter of the guest council person program. I like bringing people in. I like the opportunity for people to come in and just see what we do here. I kind of view it as an equity and inclusion issue. I think city government really has a reputation for being a kind of closed network, have an old boy network, and I think it's a good way for us to let people in, let people try it out. I mean, as I think other people have said it, people learn what the job entails, how much preparation goes into it. I think that you get a lot of people who think they know all about city council and city business, and then they come in here and they see everything that we have to do, and they're a little bit more respectful of all the work that we're doing to be on here. I like the idea of, trying to recruit people to be more involved in city governance. But sometimes it's just a question of, better communication. I mean, we all talk about how we don't necessarily do a great job of communicating what's going on in the city. So every time we get a guest council person, I feel like we're getting another advocate for the stuff that's going on in the city. If we want to come up with some sort of shared guidelines for who we invite to be guest council people, I'd support that. I mean, I try to focus on people who live and work in Waverly. I know sometimes you may get someone who works here but doesn't live in Waverly or vice versa. But I try to get people who are engaged in the community. I'm a big fan of getting people who are fairly new to the community, finding people who've been here 5 or fewer years, because it's a chance for them to get more involved in the community. People who are just learning their way around the community. I think those are really good people to recruit. I mean, I've already got somebody lined up for my August event, my August guest council person, because I start thinking about it as soon as the last one's over, trying to think of who would be good for that. But yeah, I'm a big supporter of this. I'd like to see it continued.
I would be supportive of us defining the role and the program better. I think maybe this is because I'm the newest one up here and I've been feeling my way, but I think there wouldn't be any harm in defining it better so that we are all kind of on the same page when we're recruiting people and understanding what the purpose is supposed to be and helping them to understand. I think that'd be a positive thing.
Yeah, I do too. If we're continuing it, I'd like to see a statement of purpose or something like that. I don't feel comfortable restricting if this continues, and it sounds like, you know, the general, haven't heard from all the council people yet. But if this continues, I don't feel comfortable, as I said before, restricting who council people are able to invite. But I think it would be nice to have a statement of purpose, you know, and just a general goal for the program, so that when a council person is looking at who to invite, they can match that up with what our stated goal for the program is, rather than just filling a seat, which sometimes, frankly, I have done.
It would be nice to get maybe input or suggestions, maybe from commission members or you know, other people that work within the city as well. I know I asked Carla, hey, do you know of anybody that might want to do this? Or because it is hard to find someone that, number one, can make the meetings, because there's a lot of people that are pretty busy, and to commit to that. But, you know, I agree, Rod, I think that we definitely need some type of objective on why, you know, for the guest council person, and then to make sure that, you know, I know there's evaluations that kind of go out to the guest council people, and make sure that we are taking those comments when they do come back into consideration, and how we should maybe change up the program a little bit and maybe reevaluate it, the program, every once in a while, not every 5 years, you know, reevaluate it each year, and how is that, do we still need it, how is it working, is it going well, were those objectives accomplished? Yeah, so I think definitely if we do keep it, we should get more detailed in that.
I would say, been on the council the longest as far as, and had the most guest council people as a result of that. But really from my experience, having been a government civics teacher, I really like the idea of providing an opportunity for insight for citizens to have this. I know a similar thing that popped into my head was that the Iowa Supreme Court goes around every year and has Supreme Court cases, sessions at high schools or in community centers throughout the state all the time, just to open that up and have people have a chance to see what one of those proceedings is or what's actually happening. And so this is another way of opening it up. I would agree with Rod that it's very tough to come into a new dynamic, and just 3 meetings, really only 2 business meetings and then a study session, and kind of get a real handle on it. I mean, as we all have experienced as council members or as mayor, coming in and the work that's being done does take months, sometimes years, that are in the process of planning or doing these things that we've been talking about. So somebody jumping in for a month, you know, it's think back to our first month being on council and the stuff that we were trying to take in. It is a lot to try to digest and then feel like you can contribute a whole lot to that. I didn't really think of it in the lines of diminishing what we do as much as I've had people that have declined that I've asked because they haven't wanted to get into the middle of the fray. They didn't want to be, oh, you guys are talking about this month, or this has been going on as an issue, and we've had a few of those. That they just didn't want to be seen as being, you were involved in that. No, I'm just sitting there, and they're just sitting there, but you know, they saw that. But I've always tried to mix it up in terms of who I've brought in. I've had high school students, I've had Wartburg students, I've had business people, and so I've tried to get that in just because it is a diversity of, as Brian said, it's kind of bringing in that diverse viewpoint at least. But I would certainly be willing to entertain another process or more defined how we want to go about finding people.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's a sampler, right? You know, I think that as far as what our dynamic is, I'm not sure what our dynamic is up here. And so I think everybody's comfort level, right, with asking a question or speaking up, that's each person individually is going to feel comfortable doing that, or they're going to be more of an observer. I hope that the discussion tonight about whether it's worthwhile doesn't make people less apt to do it, okay, or less apt to want to speak up when they're sitting up here, if they get the impression that we don't think it's useful to hear from them. I'm not sure that's a great vibe to be giving to the citizenry. But, you know, I think that for the most part, when people bother to fill out the feedback that we get, it's positive, that people found it interesting. They had a new respect for the city level of government. And their government is so unapproachable right now. I mean, you actually can walk in this government building and talk to city staff, talk to us, and you can't do that easily at even the state level. And so, I mean, I hope we continue it and you know.
I think that it's important, I think it was Brian said, you know, somebody trying to target someone new in town, and how do we do that or a new business owner that's in town, having them come and be a guest, just to kind of participate and get to know faces, maybe hear, especially the study sessions, because we learned so much during study sessions. I think those are probably the places where people would learn and get most out of it, is the study sessions. But even if it's, you know, being a guest council person, you know, is month enough? Can they be there for 2 months as a guest council person, just to get a little bit more of a hang of things? You know, just like you guys said, other people said, changing it up just a little bit and evaluating that to make it feel more worthwhile, maybe, and actually be more worthwhile and educational for people, and maybe to become more approachable to newer people in town, younger people, because I really think we need to get younger people involved in things. That is very important. And younger people really learn today by acting and doing, not just reading and hearing. So getting the high school students, college students in here and participating in it, that's how you're going to get them to be interested, not just hearing about it.
So one thing I do like is the fact that they're here for a month and the study session is the last meeting. I mean, the study session is really where we talk about more visioning and more kind of long-term thinking and really digesting things. And I think that's usually their third week. So by that time, they've reached a little bit more of a comfort level and are more willing to participate in the conversation. So I like the fact that study session is kind of once they're reaching their comfort zone. I do kind of have to put on my mathematician hat and say I like the idea of the guest council person being kind of a random sample of the people of Waverly. I like that guest council person should represent a wide variety of views, and in particular views that aren't necessarily already on the council. So I like that idea of somehow that guest council person being I don't know, randomly chosen would be nice. I mean, of course, it's a there's a selection bias from who we are and who says yes to it. So we're not going to get a true random sample, but the more we can do to get a variety of opinions, particularly opinions that we don't already hold, I think is really valuable in that guest counsel position. And sometimes we get people who are more participatory than others, and that's kind of the randomness of it. Not everyone's going to have a lot to say, but everyone, needs to be represented. And every once in a while we get someone who has some really good ideas that we hadn't heard before, and it's always valuable when those people, happen to be there. So.
I'd like to reiterate something that Ann touched on, and that is, I think, the accessibility. I think we're in an era where lots of people are really frustrated with government on all levels, and lack of accessibility or responsiveness by the people that are determining things about our lives. And I just think that at this very grassroots level, it's important for us to keep that accessibility. And if there's no other value in the guest counsel program, I think that's an important one.
Well, we also get to see people in government who aren't yelling at each other and insulting each other all the time, right? I mean, part of our manual for how we're supposed to proceed ethically is, even if you aren't on the winning side of a vote, you're obligated to support the issue going forward and do what you can to make it happen, right? And I don't know if they take an oath like that at higher levels of government, but they don't act like they do, right? So I think that most people, I think it's good for people to see city government where you have to balance the budget, right? Where you hear directly from staff at every meeting, and where you do interact with your colleagues in a respectful way, even if you disagree on things. I think that's especially important for students to see that, who might be thinking about going into political science or law or urban planning or whatever they're thinking of doing. And so, I just think we need to continue.
One point I want to make here is I don't feel it is accessible. I do understand your point, but it's to have access to it, you have to be asked by one of us. So therefore, it's not accessible and it's not equitable. And, there's 300 people that have done the guest counsel, which means there's about 10,000 people in Waverly that haven't. And quite frankly, there's people that I would never ask. People I like, people I know that, okay, that would not be a good person. That would definitely be disruptive. So there's that side of it too. But I guess my whole, the efficiency, the efficiency of the meetings goes down when we lose the dynamic. So, and I think that, our efforts are better spent trying to get people, in Pete's seat and out there. And getting them really involved, not just coming for a month and they go away. And they're generally people who are more interested in the city anyway, so you've got a really high percentage of people that end up, being on a board or a commission. I think that's already there. I don't think that's going away, so.
I noticed that Bill's not here tonight. I did a quick review admittedly a very quick review of the city code, code of ordinances, and our council procedures manual. And if I missed it, I did not see anything in there about the guest council program. So I'm not sure if it's actually memorialized anywhere in any of our rules.
It's not.
Okay. Well, to kind of sum things up here, if I can, so we can move on. There's obviously a lot of support for continuing the program. I guess I would like to see us encourage more people to come and listen to the council meetings, but that probably is not going to be something that is going to, it's something that's going to take a lot more work than just simply inviting one person every 7 or 8 months to come to a meeting here. So What I'm going to suggest, and if there's no objections to it, I'd certainly be willing to do this, or somebody else wants to, that's fine. But I would like to just kind of take a shot at drafting a statement of purpose for the guest council program that all of you guys can wordsmith, because I know you will anyway. Just so that we're all on the same page as to what we're hoping that program is going to accomplish. I really don't want to restrict anyone in who they ask to come, but I think it would be good for us to have a statement of purpose for what we hope that program will accomplish. And if you decide to wordsmith it and change it, or not adopt it, that's fine, but I would like to see us at least make the attempt to do that.
I only had 2 items that were brought to my attention, observations from outside, and I'll share those with you, because it had come up and was talked about briefly during council comments, how we got to where we are today. And one was, we look at our legislature or Congress, they don't allow people on the floor as guests to, sit beside their representative or their congressperson or whatever. Goes back to Rod's comment about, earning a seat on that floor and having a purpose there on that floor. So if you look at it as a ancillary position on the floor, like they have their pages and they have their aides and they have a defined purpose of why they're there and why they're engaging with the elected officials and that kind of thing. So getting to that point, this person was saying that's kind of, those people have a purpose for being there, and it's well defined. The other one was the fact that this person observed, and I've observed it, and I had one of my guest council members that was on in November of 2020 and ran for council in November of 2021, and it wasn't on their horizon at that time. It was a brief discussion of whether they might do it or not. But I'll admit we've seen it turn into a political podium once in a while where we get close to election time and somebody wants to sponsor essentially a candidate to come forward. So that can be part of that consideration too. That there are some rules. I mean, just no different than if I'm serving here in October, September, I can't be making a statement regarding a campaign matter, and neither should another, a guest council person. So that was a concern that person had, and it goes both ways. And so I just wanted to share those opinions as well. So. We've got an offer by Rod. It can't go to a vote, but if we have a consensus to have something, I think, James, you can talk to Bill and see if it's something that lies within council procedures as far as that position, or if it has to be something drafted into a resolution to formally create this program on paper. Is that the consensus to?
Well, I mean, Rod certainly has the opportunity to create something. I mean, I think any of us can kind of put together something and send it around to see what people's response is. I mean, it's not until we start talking about ordinances that we start violating open meetings laws or things like that. But if he wants to, put something together and run up a flagpole and see who salutes, I think it's well within his ability to do that. I mean, I would agree it's easier to talk about something once we have something it's easier to tear something apart when someone started to build something. So, and if Rod's willing to, be our whipping boy for that purpose, more power to him.
Won't be the first time.
Yeah, even though it's just a draft of something, whether it's a resolution or if it's a procedure or policy, it's
it might just be a policy. I mean, I think a lot of people have said it'd be nice to have a little guidance in terms of who we're selecting for those guest council people. And if, Rod wants to try to put something together, and then we can all kind of work with it and come up with what we think are good guidelines. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's also the case that any guidelines that we have, they're relevant for this council, and then some people leave and some people come on, and they may have different attitudes about what they want to do. As Julie said, it's nice for the new person coming in to know what the pre-existing guidelines were. But I also think that people have the right to remake, their goal and their vision every year. I mean, it's a new council every time.
My comment was more geared towards, even though it's not a ordinance or proposed ordinance or resolution, it's still deliberating on city business, so we've got to still respect open meetings rules and regulations, so, keeping under a quorum if you choose to work with somebody.
If we reply, we're replying to Rod, not to the entire council.
Still have to be,
I'd rather you don't do that, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd rather have it drafted, brought to council to discuss the whole,
Correct.
otherwise you're deliberating one at a time through the process, and I
Okay.
don't think it's close enough to risk that.
Yeah.
I think it's best if you want to draft something, bring it forward. That's the greatest way to do it.
yep.
James, do you think it would go in we could put it in the manual where we talk about how the meetings are run?
Policies,
Council
procedures.
procedures.
I think that's the best place for it to live,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
that?
That way it can be amended without full.
And future councils can change it
Yeah,
as they
want
feel
to.
good. If we decide that we want to do that.
I wouldn't think it would need to be, the Old
Lengthy.
Testament. I think
Right.
it could be
Right.
some just basic outlines. Here are the objectives, here are our outlines.
Yeah. Don't worry, I won't do my lawyer thing and have a 6-page memo.
All right. I appreciate your willingness to step up and do that, Rob. Any final closing comments from anyone?
Well, I would also say, if anyone out there is interested in being a guest council person, we're always looking. So, I
Yes.
mean, Matthew may have different experience than I have, but I haven't had anyone come to me wanting to be a guest council person, and I've said, heck no, you psycho, I don't want you on the council. I have not turned anyone away who's interested in being a guest council person.
And I
so.
do appreciate Matt, even though he was going to leave the seat empty in May, in silent protest, he offered to let me use May for some of these high school
Yeah, I'm willing
students.
to,
So I appreciate that. And if you don't have anybody for July, I might have extra students who want to do it, so.
Yeah, in all fairness, I played with this for 3.5 years before I said, I think we need to look at this, and it did bother me from the beginning, but
I think
I'll end up good sport.
the only recommendation that I would have publicly on it would be that if you wanted to have somebody there for 1 week, I know we've talked about getting into the rhythm of things, but some people, a student, just wants to come and sit up here and check a box to some degree. So if you've got 3 meetings, 3 different people, by all means.
Do they still have to do that for the middle school?
I don't think these guys want to check boxes. I think they're
Right,
Yeah.
but,
engaged.
yeah, and that's fine too.
And I would say there are some times where I have some where it's like, well, do I have to come all 3? There's one I can't make, and it's like, well,
Right.
I'd like you to make all 3, but if you can make 2, that's usually good enough.
Right.
I don't know if you want to include that in your guidelines, that anyone we ask, should be committed to all 3 weeks, or if 2 out of 3 is good enough, or 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Probably something along the lines of no more than 3 consecutive meetings or something.
I think that's,
So if you want to have 3 different people for your 3 meetings,
so be
I
it.
wouldn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the students, sometimes that works better, depending on what their activities are.
And I think something for us to discuss when we bring this is residential status, number 1, and then number 2 is I've been thinking particularly of elected officials. I think there's some merit to trying to get, people from the House to state level, perhaps, maybe not after what they've done politically, maybe it might not be the best thing, but I think it'd be good if we could, have some dialogue with people at the state and use that seat for that. I don't know if there's a way that we can do that through this change, but.
I'd say we've had that in the past.
The only thing that I would be concerned about is we may want to have a prohibition on someone who's an announced candidate for an office.
This year it'd be okay for somebody at the state.
Yeah, but, if someone is running for state legislature and they're going to be our guest council person in October, that probably isn't fair to the person that is running opposed to them, if there is one. So maybe that is something that I think should be. I'll tell you again, my whole feeling is I'm just not comfortable with the program. And if it were me, I would probably terminate it. But can tell that I'm in the minority, so I want to just make sure that we have some guidelines on what we're doing here. So that if for no other reason, it makes me feel more comfortable with the program.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to Section 8, reports from boards and commissions. 3 items there. 2 of them are the Human Equity and Diversity Commission minutes of February 14th and March 14th of 2023. The third one is the Waverly Municipal Airport Commission minutes of March 9th of 2023, all received into the record. Brings us to Section I, staff updates. Mr. Bronner.
Yep, brief one tonight, sir.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, Special Collection Week has started today. We got a lot of people calling in. We do have a form on the website that you can fill out under Public Services Home, and we'll take care of it and contact you if there's any questions. Yard waste continues this week as well and goes through the end of next week, the 5th. So.
That's all we have tonight, sir.
All right. Meyers.
Garrett has mentioned a little bit in the past weeks about some of the activities that are coming up on May 6th, but that's in 2 short weeks away, and there's a lot going on in town that weekend, including spring open houses at the retailers and the art walk and lots of other good stuff, so I hope everybody has that on their calendar.
So, Mr. Birgen.
Well, I was going to mention Sarah's Room for Renewal kickoff on Saturday, but she already mentioned that. But I did want to say that I'm going to be reading to a bunch of grade school kids on Wednesday, so I'm looking forward. I will be in the library sometime this week for Library Week. Anyone who wants to join me to discuss city business, I will be at the Wooden Foot afterwards. Come and have a beer with me.
All right. Mr. Schneider. Mr. Drenkow.
Well, since I was appointed as a council liaison to the Municipal Airport Commission, I finally had a meeting that wasn't being held during a snowstorm, which is kind of fun going out to the airport in the middle of a snowstorm to have a meeting. Going pretty slowly, but my point is, and I was not aware of this, but the airport, especially the office area there and the area where they're working on the planes, doing the mechanical stuff, it is really improved. It's very clean, it's bright. They're doing a wonderful job out there running that airport. We're getting a lot of use of the airport, and I'm really happy about the way that things are going out there. I think that we have things going in the right direction as far as using what we can have out there, because obviously we're somewhat restricted in the length of our runway, but what we have there is being very well maintained, and I think we can be very proud of that facility. I was really surprised. They hadn't been out there for a number of years, and when I saw it, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rathe.
Nothing tonight.
Beaufore.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right. Mr. Kangas.
I'm good.
Good deal. I have a couple things. Just a reminder, Friday is Arbor Day here in Waverly, so partake if you're able to. I wanted to thank the Rotary Club for having a couple hundred, I would guess. Didn't get an actual
Around
number.
150.
Okay, 100 and a half, we'll go with. Guests in town on Friday and Saturday, and did it carry over to Sunday, or is it just Friday,
Just
Saturday?
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday for their conference, regional conference that they hadn't we haven't hosted it for 15 years. So that was a pleasant experience, and got to meet a lot of people there. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Kangas, second by Schneider. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.